Hi friends, welcome back to Calm in the Chaos Homeschool. Today I'm going to be sharing my term 1 update on how things are going for my 9th and 10th graders this school year. If you're new here, my name is Davine and I homeschool 4 kids who are in 7th, 8th, 9th, and 10th grade. And if you want to see what we're doing for our morning basket and our group subjects, you'll want to go 2 videos back. And if you want to see what my 7th and 8th graders are doing this school year and how things are going for them, that was last week's video. And like I said, today I'm going to be sharing how my 9th grader and 10th grader are doing so far this school year. Now, before I get too far into this, I do want to let you know that my 9th grader is full-time homeschooled for about 2.5 days a week. And then she does a lot of work at home. So the public school assigns her some homework, and then I am working with her on 3 subjects here at home. So she does 3 credits with me officially here at home and 3 credits officially at the school this school year. So as I go through, I'm going to go subject by subject, but I will let you know what my 9th grader is doing and what my 10th grader is doing for each of those subjects. So every week I give my daughters both a weekly checklist on what they need to accomplish. And I'm going to work my way down from the top of the checklist down to the bottom roughly. The first thing on the checklist is always devotions because we are a Christian family and it is very important. So that is on the top of our list. Right now, both of them are working through this. So this is Uncovering Mercies at the Manger by Not Consumed. It is 25 days long. We started the beginning of November because I wanted to make sure that we finished it before Christmas. It is going through Jesus's genealogy from Adam and talking about notable figures all the way up to Jesus. So it's kind of a fun way to look at Jesus and where God has started to work at the very beginning, working towards Jesus's coming. So that is what we are currently working on. My girls and my boys are all working on this individually. And then when we get together, I had them share something that they found interesting from the last time we met. So that is what we're working on right now. My 9th grader, when she's not doing that, she has started working on things in her Bible. She's starting to take some notes. She found a system that she likes as far as highlighting different things. So she's currently reading through John and highlighting different passages based on, I don't know, some kind of thing that she found online. So that's kind of fun. She started studying the Bible for herself. I'm not sure if she's doing anything else for devotions right now, but I'm kind of leaving that up to her because she's kind of self-directed in that way. So that is what my 9th grader is doing, just kind of working through John and highlighting passages and things like that. While my 10th grade does more of a hybrid program, she is in a local public school. Now my 10th grader, when she's not working on Uncovering Mercies at the Manger, she's going through this. So this is Everyday Grace for Teens, 60 devotionals. And so this is sort of what it looks like, just short little devotions. I do have a pile of things that they can pick from, and so this is what she picked to move into. She was doing You Are Beautiful and Courageous, and I've talked about that one in the past. So if you want to see that one, that would be in videos from probably the beginning of our school year and the end of last school year. Next, for math, my 9th grader, she took a bit longer to get through Algebra 1. She started Algebra 1 in 8th grade, and we took 15 whole months to get through that. So we finished that up probably the end of September. And she is thinking of doing some classes at the local public school next year. And math is one of those things that I would love for her to have a live teacher. So she was doing Algebra 1 by Denison Math, and we do really like that program. I highly recommend it for if you're doing high school and you want video lessons and also physical workbook. I really liked that. And so I do recommend that. But I did not want to start geometry this year if it was going to take her another 15 months. And then if she's starting math at the local high school, then she would have to start Algebra 2 while still finishing up geometry, and I didn't want to do that. So in order to not run into that possible problem next school year, I decided to take a break a little bit from math and do something a little bit different and less traditional. She really likes practical, applicable math. And so we did do Beyond Financial Literacy at the end of last year, and she liked that, just practical real life math. So I decided to spend the rest of the year giving her a full credit for personal finance or something like that. So I did some research and I ended up picking, you can't really see it, but this is Campfire Curriculum's Financial Stewardship. I think she is really enjoying this. No complaints on that front. The one complaint I would have about this is it is not super easy to just hand it over and say, work on this, because there's no there's 6 units, but there's no really automatic notable stopping points within those 6 units. So for her to do it independently, I did have to go through it pretty thoroughly and kind of just decide what a day looks like and then type out what she needed to do each day. So that's one thing I did not like about this, but so far I think she's really enjoying it. I do like that it comes from a Christian perspective. It also talks about different kinds of money people. So people who are savers, spenders, risk takers, balanced. So different types of habits that you have with money or personalities that you have with money, and some of the strengths and weaknesses of those, and what are some things to look out for. So it covers things like sales and impulsive spending and not being tricked by the media and things like that. So that has been a good one. I think she does enjoy doing this year. And then for my 10th grader, she is doing math at her school. She does it at her level. She has an IEP, so she works with her resource room teacher. I believe they are going through Saxon math books, and so she does that at school. Even though she does math at school, I did get something for her this summer that she has started working on. It's a little bit different. She is doing Simply Charlotte Mason's Your Business math series, The Pet Store. And basically this is, you're running a pet store. So you're buying inventory, you're selling inventory, you're doing all the ledger and things like that. Every month you figure out what your profit and loss is, things like that. So that is something that we're doing in addition to whatever math she does at school. It is basic addition, subtraction, calculator work, multiplication for percentages, things like that. And so it's just practice. It's just a different way to be using practical math. And so she's working on that. I would say this is intended for maybe 3rd would be the youngest grade. I would not go to 3rd grade, probably 4th, 5th, 6th, maybe middle school math. And that's sort of what this is. It's just a practical way to practice some math skills. So next I'm going to move into ELA or language arts with my 9th grader. Her primary things this year is, originally I was going to just do Windows to the World by IEW. But when I downloaded their resource, they also included 5 lessons from Teaching the Classics. Now, IEW does not put Teaching the Classics out. It is a separate website right now. But I was able to pick this up for about $50 at a consignment store. So I decided to go ahead and do those 5 lessons. So this has video lessons. It is a teacher teaching parents how to teach literature to students. Here's the table of contents. So basically there's one on tools for literary analysis, style and context, setting, characters, conflict and plot, theme, and practicum. And in our 5 lessons, we watched the videos with him teaching me how to teach. We watched the videos style and context, setting, characters, conflict and plot, and theme. So we went through and watched those videos together and did the activities. And she also did a course on essay writing from Write at Home. So we kind of stopped in the middle of that. She did an 8-week course with Write at Home. I do plan on creating a review of Write at Home very shortly. So stick around if you're interested in that. That is an online program where she's given assignments and then an actual teacher is marking and returning her assignments, and she edits and things like that. So I'll talk more about that in my review video, but we did that. And so we have not actually started a single lesson yet in Windows to the World. Today was the day that we we're supposed to do that. I think we're going to do that tomorrow. I would say both this and this are teacher led, and so it is important that you know that if you're doing that, you probably do need to meet with your student once a week. It would work well with a class setting as well. So I can't really tell you how Windows to the World is going so far. Teaching the classics was good. I would say the videos were, like I said, intended for adults, and so it was a little bit hard. We did speed it up to like 1.3 speed to get through it a little faster, but I learned a lot from the videos, and I appreciate that going into doing Windows to the World. I think I'm going to be better able to understand how to teach literary analysis. So that has been our main language arts this school year. And then she has a few other components. So she is working on this vocabulary cartoons SAT word power. Basically, they just have cartoons, they have words, they have the definition, they give some examples. And then after every 10 words, they have a review quiz. So she does maybe 5 words a day, and then she'll do a review quiz on the 3rd day. So we're just working through that to try to build up her vocabulary. Another thing we do for vocabulary is Wordly Wise. She's on book 9. She's getting, she's about halfway. She's about halfway through this book. We're just working on this slowly. So we have these 2 things for vocabulary. We'll probably finish this up this school year. And then for grammar, she is working on Fix It Grammar Level 4. So that is what she is doing for her language arts this school year. Now, the final component for language arts is doing a lot of reading, literature, and some written narration. I'm going to talk about that after I talk about what my 10th grader is doing for language arts this school year. Now, primarily, she is in British literature at the local public school. This is not an easy course for her, but she does get some ELA supports at the school. So she does have a block where she can work with her resource room teacher to work on her assignments for British literature. And that is really what she's getting graded on. Now, because she does have an IEP and there are some other skills that I want her to keep working on, I do some things with her at home to continue to work on things that she needs to work on when it comes to language arts. So one thing I do with her at home, I would say I do like a little bit of this with her because I don't want to overwhelm her. So like once a week, we will do a little bit of spelling UC level F. So this is the spelling that we just have gotten to so far. We're working our way through this slowly. I have seen her spelling improve greatly over the years. She started in C many, many years ago, and now we're just beginning level F. And so I'm continuing to work with her on that weekly. Another thing that we are doing weekly is a little bit of Beowulf grammar. I'm hoping to keep grammar concepts fresh or just keep reviewing grammar concepts. It is something that she struggles with. She doesn't really get like the parts of speech and things like that. So we're working on that with Beowulf grammar. And then one thing I have her doing every so often is typing. So she goes on typingclub.com, does some typing, and then she does written narration for the books that she's reading. So I do have both of my girls reading, say 30 minutes a day at least, some literature book that I assign them. The literature is generally going along with either geography, but mostly our world history. Right now we're studying modern world history. So most of the books that I'm giving them are related to modern world history. So every other day they do a written narration on the book that they're reading at the moment. So some of the books that they have either both read or at least one of them has read is, we have Horrible Histories, The Terrible Tutors, and Slimy Stewards. If you watch my 7th and 8th grade video, you'll see that a lot of these books are the same. Basically, if it's a higher level reading, I make sure my 9th grader reads it. And then if it's a lower level reading, my 7th, 8th, and 10th grader will read it. And I cut things out based on if they're too easy or too hard for my kids. But most of them are reading most of these books. So I have A Murder for Her Majesty. I have A Samurai's Tale. And then we did another one that had to do with samurais. I can't remember what that was called, but that was a guest hollow suggestion. My 9th grader read that one, and then my 10th grader read this one. We have Secret of the Andes, The Ghost at Takedo Inn. I believe my 10th grader did not want to read this, so she did not read this one. I have The Raven Master's Secret, which I'm using to prop up my tripod right now. And in the car, as we're driving to and from my 10th grader school, we are currently listening to The Scarlet Pimpernel, and I will have my 9th grader read this on her own or listen to the audiobook on her own once she's finished whatever book she's on. They're both currently reading different versions of the Grimm's fairy tales. So my 10th grader is reading more of the adapted version, the more fairy tale, the kind that we listen to nowadays, whereas my 9th grader is reading more of the original Grimm's tales, which are pretty different. She likes things that are a little bit edgier, and so she's reading a really big fat, I'm having her read some of the stories in a really big fat Grimm's original tales. So she's doing that right now, while my other one's reading more of the adapted versions. So next, for our social studies credit, we are doing two things. We are finishing up Guest Hollow's High School Geography and Cultures. We just finished up South America. We're moving into Europe, and that is the last continent for us to do to complete this high school level course that we have been working on for 4 years. Now, I have my kids work on this every third or fourth day. So this is something they do every third or fourth day. For South America, we have been using a lot of this. This is In the Land of the Jaguar. I believe it is out of print now. So if you got Guest Hollow now, you would not have this book, but I do really like this book, and I wish it was still in print. It was sort of hard to find, but a fellow Guest Hollow parent sent this to me after she used it with her kids. So we've been using that quite a bit. And then obviously the online textbook and filling out the workbook in here. We did jump around a lot, and so we're not doing it in at all the order that Guest Hollow has it assigned, but we'll be finishing this up this year. And so both of my girls will be getting a world geography credit at the conclusion of this school year. Both my 9th and 10th grader are doing social studies with me this year. Primarily, other than doing those readers and read alouds that we do as a family, or I have them reading on their own for world history, we are doing the second part of Guest Hollow's Whirlwind World History. So what I did last year was, when my daughter was in 8th grade, she was doing the beginning half of this because I really like world history. And like I said, I add those readers and read alouds. And so I feel like there's plenty of stuff in there to make this a 2-year course. So we are finishing this course up. I'm going to give my 9th grader a credit for early and medieval history, and then she'll have a modern world history credit. And my 10th grader jumped in halfway and is doing the modern world history credit as well. So they read the textbook online and they fill out the workbook, and then they do some of the videos. And once a week, or when we finish a week of Guest Hollow, they pick one of the activities to do. So that could be an art project, it could be a cooking project, something like that. Now, my 9th grader, she's pretty artistic, and so I have her doing on like the 6th day. So after we do a week of Guest Hollow, she's going through and looking at these resources here. Guest Hollow has some things scheduled. So she looks at these resources and she is putting things into her book of centuries. So as she's studying history, she's drawing different things, writing notes on different artifacts and things like that. So that is something my 9th grader is doing that my 10th grader is not. Okay, so for science, this is what we're doing this year for science. Okay, my 9th grader, she is actually going to be getting 2 credits at the end of this year that we started in her 8th grade year. So I'm going to be giving her a chemistry with lab credit, as well as a culinary arts credit for all the cooking and baking that she's doing that goes along with Guest Hollow's chemistry course. So Guest Hollow's chemistry course does not have an online textbook component, but they do have a workbook. And what they do is they use different books to be the spine of this course. So some of the spines are Napoleon's buttons, 17 molecules that changed history, what Einstein kept under his hat, Dr. Joe and What You Didn't Know. So those are just some of the spines that she's reading. So she's reading these and answering questions in her workbook. And then she has some other ones. She's reading this one right now, Slow Death by Rubber Duck. And so they have some other additional books that she is reading. So what I'm having her do for that one is every other day when she's not doing a written narration for her literature book, she's doing a written narration for this Slow Death by Rubber Duck book. Now, like I said, we started that course last year and we took our time with that. She also took a chemistry class at our parent partnership program, which she was a part of last year. She's not this year because they only go up to 8th grade. So she was in a 2-hour chemistry class every day last year. And so I didn't have her do all of chemistry. We just tried to get through about half of the chemistry. So this year we are continuing with the chemistry. We are doing the other half of the chemistry, but I did add in a little bit more just to make sure that she gets these 2 credits. And I wanted to make sure that she was getting some labs. I just struggle a bit with getting labs in. So just to try to make sure we got some labs in there and just some more the fundamental chemistry principles, I have included Chemistry 101. And so we have the DVDs here, and then you can download the course program and guidebook. So this has notes, we have quizzes, we have a guide on like different labs that she can write notes on. Basically, they'll show the lab in here and she's just writing notes on the labs. This is how I'm making this a lab credit. So what I will do is I'll do a week of guest holobiology, and then I have her do 3 to 4 days in here, and then a week of guest holobiology, and then we go back to this. So that's sort of how I'm doing chemistry for her this school year. Now, guest holo chemistry has a lot of cooking experiments, which are supposed to be your labs. I just am not here to make sure she writes down the labs. She just needs it a little more structured. So she's doing those things, but we're not counting those as labs. She's doing the video here for her labs for chemistry. And that's how I'm going to add a culinary art credit for her for high school. Now, my 10th grader, she originally was going to be doing biology through her public school, but we found that she was falling behind really quickly. She has a really hard time with the scientific process and just learning all the technical terms for labs and things like that. And so that's where we've gotten stuck the last 2 years. So for the last 2 years, I have taken science back and done it here at home with her. I decided we are going to continue with biology, even though she couldn't do it at the school. I figured I could do it here at home with her. And so I wanted to find an inexpensive biology that I could add in pretty last minute. And I went with Guest Holo again. So we have Guest Holo's high school biology. And so this is a very, very fat workbook. This is the workbook that goes along with their online textbook. Now it has a variety of things. It has true or false. It has matching. It has multiple choice. It has fill in the blanks. It has critical thinking activities and things like that. So I do really like this. She has been able to do it. It does take her quite a bit of time to find the answers and to watch the videos, but I did tell her this was going to be a challenging course for her this year, and so she's been able to keep up with it. So basically, we really just do the online textbook and the workbook at this point. However, the same as for chemistry, I decided to add in Biology 101 just to add some variety, a little bit of different visual things. Now, I thought this would have more labs. It doesn't have really the labs that I need, so I'm going to be picking up some additional resources to figure out how to make this a lab science. And so maybe next term, you'll see more of the additional resources that I'm using. But for Biology 101, she's basically, whenever we're studying different topics, she's going and watching the video, studying the topic, and doing the quiz in here. So the chapters they have in here is they have an introduction, the 3rd day plants, the 5th day aquatic creatures, the 5th day avian creatures, the 6th day land animals, the 6th day mankind, and then genetics. And so those are the topics covered in Biology 101. Now, I don't know how far we're going to get in this. I have made this a little more condensed. When they have a 5-day week in Guest Hollow, I have made it a 4-day week for her. And so we're doing like a week and a day every week that she does science. Guest Hollow actually does have Biology 101 scheduled out as well. And so I am following that along with this. Guest Hollow also has other resources, especially if you believe in a 7-day creation, new earth, and all that. They have a lot of resources that you can add, but I'm not adding those. And I find that this is plenty. This is plenty for my daughter for biology to still be challenging her. And she's learning plenty just doing this. So, in addition to all that, both of my girls are doing a little bit of health this school year. I'm having them do it every other day. At this point, my 9th grader is finishing up this book. So, this is God's Design for Sex, and it is book 4. So, it has 4 books. I've had her read through all the books. This is the last one. This is for ages 12 to 16. She got a hold of this one first, and then my 10th grader is going to be reading this after her. So they've both been going through that series. I've also been having them go through a series on porn, you know what I mean, and trafficking and things like that. And so they're doing that as well. And so I'm not sure if that will go all the way to the end of the school year. I just keep trying to bring up topics as we go through. At some point, they'll get a health credit, but I'm not really structuring this to be a specific health credit at this time. Another elective that my 9th grader is currently doing is CompuScholer Web Design, and that is an online course. It kind of leads her through designing a web page. I am pretty much hands off on that because I have no idea what they're doing over there. So when she gets stuck, I try to help her as best as I can, but I really can't help her too much. So far we've been able to get out of any parts that she has gotten stuck at. Hopefully it'll continue to go well. I'm a little nervous about it because I really don't know anything about web design and things like that. So hopefully she's learning a lot through that course, but that is something she's working on. And I think that is pretty much what my girls are doing for the academics right now. My 9th grader is super involved in cheer this year. She started in the fall season. She's moved into the winter season where they do basketball and competitive cheer. It's not her first year for cheer. She did cheer last year in 8th grade, but is her first year for doing it competitively. She's very excited about that. That takes up a lot of her time. My 9th grader, she's just keeping up on schoolwork at this point. So that's what we're doing so far this school year. This school year has gone pretty well. I feel like I did set up some good systems to keep track of what my girls are doing. They have a weekly turn-in list, so I have a page that I print off. When I print off their weekly assignments, I print off this page, so at the end of the week, they have to go through the checklist and make sure they hand me the pile of things that are on that checklist. So that has worked to help me keep on track of things. So I usually check their work on the weekends and go over corrections Monday or on the weekend if I can. And yeah, so it's been going pretty good so far for my girls this school year. How are you doing? Do you have any high schoolers? How is high school going for you? If you like videos like this, don't forget to give me a like and subscribe if you haven't already. And if you have any hype points and you enjoyed this video, I would love it if you used your hype points to hype this video and just let it spread to more people. Thanks so much for coming today, and I hope to see you all in a future video. Bye, everyone.